Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel and this 11th video on cell signaling, and we were discussing signaling molecule, that is signaling molecule with plasma membrane receptor, that is this one, lipophilic signaling molecule with plasma membrane receptors. So we were discussing about these lipophilic signaling molecule with intracellular receptor, lipophilic signaling molecule with plasma membrane receptors. We have done these two. Now in this video we will discuss about water soluble signaling molecules. Okay, so without making any delay, let's begin with the water soluble signaling molecules. Here water soluble signaling molecules are these molecules are polar. Okay, so I guess you have know the basic, that is what is mean by polar and non-polar here. See, polar means which have the charge ions. Okay, so polar, non-polar means which doesn't have the charge, means from both the side the charge have been cancelled. Here the in polar there is a difference of charge. Okay, that is actually called as polar. So because of that reason these signaling molecules are polar, therefore they are cannot pass through the plasma membrane unaided means without the help or without the somebody assistance. These molecules are cannot able to transfer the membrane. For example, if you see here, this is the phospholipid bilayer. So they here these water soluble molecules, so as we are discussing about the water soluble signaling molecule, these molecules cannot able to cross these phospholipid bilayer because they are polar. Okay, so because of that reason, and the another reason is that they are too large to pass through the membrane. The size is very big, so that they are unable to pass through the membrane. So now the question is then how they are going to pass this bilayer, because after passing the bilayer only they can start with the signal transduction pathway, right? So therefore, the question is how. The solution for that is here you can see in the third point. So therefore the most water soluble signaling molecules bind to the portion of a cell surface receptor which is on the outside of the cell. So that's why these water soluble molecules bind to the receptor bind to the portion of a cell surface receptors which is on the outer side of the cell. So in the previous video I used to tell, so there are different kinds of signaling molecules, right? So here the lipophilic signaling molecules, these signaling molecules have the intracellular receptors. Okay, these signaling molecules have intracellular receptor, and lipophilic signaling molecule with plasma membrane receptor, the receptor will be present on the plasma membrane. But in case of water soluble signaling molecules, as these signaling molecules are unable to cross the lipid bilayer, so and because they are polar, and second reason is their size is very big, so that's why what they will do, they will bind to the receptor, to the portion of the receptor. That receptor must be a cell surface receptor which is on the outer side of a cell. Okay, don't worry, I will make you understand here. If you take the example, like if you think this is a cell, okay, if you think this is a cell, so on the cell the receptor will be present. Okay, this is a receptor, this is a cell. So these are signaling molecules. Which signaling molecules? The water soluble signaling molecules are going to bind to the receptor, to the cell surface. This is the cell, so this is the surface, cell surface receptor on the outer side. This is inside, right? This is outer side. So there we are these water soluble signaling molecules are going to bind. So this is very very important point, because the other two we are studying about the signaling molecules, right? The other two types have intracellular receptor, and another signaling molecule have plasma membrane receptor. Now the question in examination, if they have asked how the water soluble signaling molecules are going to cross the membrane, here they are binding to the cell surface receptors. With the help of that they are going to cross the membrane. So like that is the answer for this. Okay, for example, so make you to understand or make you to remember these content very easily, you have to learn with difference. Okay, how can you learn? So just now in the previous video how done this topic, lipophilic signaling molecules with plasma membrane receptor, or the first one, lipophilic signaling molecule with intracellular receptors. By comparing the content, then you can remember the other contents very easily. For example, if you learn with the content, see, we'll move on to this point here. Lipid soluble signaling molecule, where they are going to bind, they bind to the receptor that are in the cytoplasm, right, which are in the cytoplasm, while water soluble signaling molecules bind to the receptors at the cell surface membrane. Okay, remember, this is the keynote which helps in the examination. So lipid soluble molecules bind to the receptors that are in the cytoplasm, while water soluble cell signaling molecules bind to the receptor at the cell surface membrane. So you might have studied in the lower class, or you might have a confusion here. What is the cell surface membrane, or cell membrane, or plasma membrane? So don't confuse, both are different here, right? This is the basic, maybe some of them already know that I don't have to explain this, but I just want to recall the basics so that help you to understand or help you to connect very easily. So for example, if you have to know, think for make you to understand, we'll just draw a simple diagram here. See, think this is a cell. Okay, so our body is made up of cells, it is a building block of cells, right? So think this is a cell. Okay, this cell, this is a cell. This cell is surrounded by a membrane called as cell membrane. This is a cell membrane. Okay, this is surrounded by a membrane called as cell membrane, and even we know that this is the cytoplasm. In cytoplasm we are going to get the cell organelles like mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum, whatever all the other cell organelles that you can able to vacuole, okay, that you can able to mention, all those things. Okay, those are all cell organelles, right? Okay, cell organelles. So these cell organelles have a membrane called, these cell organelles are surrounded by a membrane called as plasma membrane. Okay, these are surrounded by a membrane called as plasma membrane. Okay, these are surrounded by a membrane called as plasma membrane, and the cell is surrounded by cell membrane, right? I guess this is a very easy one that you can able to recall it. So how we can differentiate cell membrane and plasma membrane? Here the cell membrane is nothing but it is also a semi permeable membrane that surrounds the cytoplasm of a cell, that is cell membrane. And here the plasma membrane is this is also a semi permeable barrier that surrounds the cellular components. What are the cell organelles which are present, cellular components which are present, that have the membrane layer which protects them? That layer is called as plasma membrane. And here the cell membrane encloses the entire cell, and this plasma membrane, it may even the some of the cells have the plasma membrane as well. Okay, this might cover the cell or cell organelle. It may cover the cell or cell organelle, both. Okay, and here this cell membrane is composed of a phospholipid bilayer which embedded the protein. Okay, that is the composition of the cell membrane. And composition of plasma membrane, it composed of its composition actually it is based on composition. It is going to requirement, which is based on the requirement of these cellular components, or you can say the composition may change based on the requirement of these cellular components. So why I am saying this basics means here, that's why these lipid soluble signaling molecules bind to these lipid soluble signaling molecules binds to the receptors that are in the cytoplasm. Okay, while the water soluble signaling molecules bind to the receptor at the cell surface membrane, because these water soluble signaling molecules are polar and they are too large, they are unable to cross the membrane. That's why Okay, and here, for example, make you to understand, I will take an example of steroid hormones. You know steroid hormones, right? That I have done in the first lipophilic signaling molecules with intracellular receptors, where these steroid hormones can easily cross the cell membrane because they are non-polar, which makes it energetically favorable for them to interact with the fatty tails of the phospholipids. Okay, so they can able to see here we are seeing the phospholipid bilayer. So these steroid hormones, this phospholipid bilayer, so this phospholipid tail, it makes easy for them, favorable for them to cross this layer. Which one? Steroid hormones. But in case of water soluble signaling molecules, these fatty acid these polar molecules, because these are polar molecules, like for example, if you take the example of peptide hormones, okay, which bind to the receptor that are located on the cell membrane, because they cannot cross the lipid portion of the membrane very easily because they are polar. It is energetically unfavorable for them to interact with the fatty tails of the phospholipid layer. But for lipophilic signaling molecules, they can easily interact with the fatty tails of the phospholipid bilayer because they are non-polar. So these fatty tails of the phospholipid make the middle part of the phospholipid bilayer non-polar, so that they can easily cross the membrane. But this is not the case here because they are polar. Okay, so and here these water soluble molecules, water soluble signaling molecules, this group of signaling molecules are quite diverse. You can get many of them, and includes, these are very important, you have to remember all these things. The first one, this group includes catecholamine signaling molecules. Second one, peptide hormones signaling molecule, and neurotransmitters and neuropeptides and growth factors. Okay, I repeat once again. Here these group of water soluble signaling molecules includes catecholamine signaling molecules, peptide hormones, neurotransmitter, neuropeptides and growth factors. Okay, we will look one by one now. Okay, just we'll give a short information on these examples here. I'm hoping this is visible. Okay, I will keep it clearly here. Okay, so these catecholamine signaling molecules. So these catecholamine signaling molecules includes these actually includes amine derivatives of catechol. Okay, all the amine derivatives of catechols will be present in this catecholamine signaling molecules. And example for this is epinephrine, norepinephrine and dopamine. Here the epinephrine means adrenaline. Another name for the epinephrine is adrenaline, and another name for the norepinephrine is noradrenaline. Okay, these actually popularly called as fright and flight hormones, right? So these are also referred as panic hormones. So these are all water soluble signaling molecules, and which comes under the catecholamine signaling molecules because these are the amine derivatives of the catechol. Okay, you have to remember all these examples. Next one, the next example is next one is peptide hormones. Here the peptide hormones are initially produced in ER. ER means they are going to produce in endoplasmic reticulum first, but in which form they are produced in an inactive and precursor form called as propeptide hormones. And later these peptide hormones later undergo a cleavage to form a mature and active hormones. Okay, for example, insulin is going to produce as a propeptide insulin. Okay, proinsulin. Okay, it is going to produce as a proinsulin. After the cleavage, it is going to convert into an insulin, like that. Okay, example for this peptide hormones is insulin and glucagon. See, do remember one key point how I would like to mention here is that you should have to remember the examples very well. because these examples only, while we are studying about the pathways, we are talking about the insulin or glucagon, how it is going to signaling pathway is going to take place, so what receptor is present, what are the signaling molecule is included. So all these things can be easily remembered when you know what kind of signaling molecule it is, so in which kind of signaling molecule, what kind of receptor it is going to interact with. So these all, okay, all these, okay, water soluble signaling molecules, these all will, the receptor will be cell surface receptor. Okay, remember, the receptor will be cell surface receptor. The receptor will be present on the cell membrane, okay, for all these things. So if you remember all these examples, then you can easily remember the receptor. The next one is neurotransmitters. Okay, neurotransmitters are nothing but these are neuronal messengers. Okay, neuronal messengers. Here neuron, I guess you might have know what is neuron, right? So the function of a neuron is to communicate, is to communication or transfer of information from one neuron to the another neuron, or from one neuron to the other type of cells. Okay, for it may be a muscle cell or gland cell, like that. So here to communicate between these two, there is a messenger, a chemical messenger, that is called as neurotransmitter. Okay, this neurotransmitter is produced by a sender cell and it is transferred to the target cell. So these neurotransmitters are nothing but, these are the neurotransmitters carry the signals between neurons, or from between the two neurons, or from one neuron to the other type of target cells, for it may be a muscle cell or a gland cell. The examples for the neurotransmitters here are glutamate, okay, GABA, dopamine, histamine and serotonin are the examples for the neurotransmitters. And here the one keynote I have written here. The keynote here is that here some neurotransmitter can also act as hormones. Okay, neurotransmitter can also act as hormones here. For example for that is epinephrine, or I can say adrenaline, functions both as it is going to function as a neurotransmitter as well as hormone, which is produced from the adrenal gland to signal the glycogen breakdown in the muscle cell. Okay, so epinephrine and adrenaline, it is going to both act as a neurotransmitter and also as a hormone. Okay, both the function it is going to play. The next one is here we have done with the catecholamines, peptide and neurotransmitter. Next one is neuropeptides. Here neuropeptides are these are also small proteins like molecules, peptides, okay, used by the neurons to communicate with each other, and these neuropeptides shows long term and more potent effect than the neurotransmitters. Okay, and here these neuropeptides are examples for this are endorphins, enkephalins, dynorphins, substance P. Here these two, endorphins and enkephalins, these two are natural analgesics. Okay, natural analgesics means they are natural pain reducers, or you can say painkillers, these two. Okay, and these actually involved in nociceptions, means response to obnoxious stimuli, means like harmful stimuli. Okay, these substance P helps in, regulates the pain response. Okay, these are the neurotransmitter, these are water soluble signaling molecules. The next one, important one, next one is growth factors. What are these growth factors? These growth factors are nothing but these are also signaling molecules, that is nothing but in particularly water soluble signaling molecules. These are going to signal between the cells and regulates the variety of cell processes, you can say cellular processes we can say, and these are survival, or you can say growth factors, means growth, here growth actually represents trophic factors, you can say, or you can say nutrition. Trophic means nutrition of the cell. Okay, and these are mitogens. So the very important one, that is word mitogens. So what is mitogens? What are mitogens? Important one, you have to remember this word, mitogens. Mitogens are nothing but these are a chemical substances that encourages a cell to commence cell division, or triggering a mitosis. Okay, and this mitogen is usually some form, it is some form of a protein which triggers the mitosis, means which activates or which initiate the mitosis. Okay, there is these are called as mitogens. And here growth factors, what is the main function of these growth factors? And these are water soluble signaling molecules, right? So what is the here the again the receptor which is will be present on the cell surface, cell surface receptors. Okay, they will be go and bind with this signaling molecule is going to bind with the cell surface receptor, and then it is going to form a ligand, then the next process is going to start. So these growth factors, they are going to regulate the cell growth and proliferation, and they are going to look over the differentiation, cell growth, proliferation and differentiation. These are the important you have to remember here. And these growth factors are, these includes PDGF. What is PDGF? PDGF means platelet derived growth factors. Okay, so these platelet derived growth factor, as in the name indicates, platelets means these will be present in the blood. Okay, and next one is EGF, and don't worry, you can easily remember. GF represents actually growth factors, right? The GF represents the growth factor here. So it is a platelet derived growth factor. Then EGF means epidermal growth factor, and then VEGF means vascular endothelial growth factor. This is actually an what you can say, it is a permeability factor, we can say. And NGF it is survival and differentiation of the neurons. This is about survival and differentiation of neurons. Okay, so this is an N represents nerve growth factor. Okay, it is a nerve growth factor, so it look over the survival and differentiation of the neuron. And then HGF means hepatocyte growth factor. This mainly functions on the regeneration and wound healing. Then FGF means fibroblast growth factor. Then MCSF means macrophage colony stimulating factor. Okay, these are all water soluble signaling molecules. Remember, which are the examples: catecholamines, peptide hormones, neurotransmitters, and then neuropeptides and growth factors. So these are all water soluble signaling molecules. I'm hoping I try to give the information as much as I know. I shared the information as much as I know on the content water soluble signaling molecules, and hoping this is going to help you all. And in the next video we will talk about the gaseous signaling molecules and other signaling molecules. That actually totally completes the signaling molecules if I had done one more video on that. So later we can start with the receptors. So I will explain all those in the next video, and I'm hoping this video is going to help you. If you learn something from this video, please do share and subscribe, so that help me to encourages me to do more. Thank you everyone.